Let's talk about the solutions then, because obviously, we have all of these, issues that we have to, deal with. And a lot of them go beyond the body into the mental side, into the psychological, the emotional states of people that a lot of people lack the tools to address them
Hmm.
and seek it. And you brought up a lot of different tools. There's ETF and all sorts of ones there. One that really stuck out to me that I was familiar with most of the ones was the Psych-K one. All right.
Yeah.
And I'd
Yeah.
love for you to get into that, and because that's something you utilize and are a facilitator of with your clients. So can you talk about Psych-K?
Yeah. So I like to call PSYCH-K one of the world's best kept secrets.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, the originator of PSYCH-K decided not to heavily advertise like a lot of other practitioners do. His feeling was if you were called to do it, the message would get to you.
Yes.
And um, he was a trained psychologist and just struggling one day and prayed out to God. And this whole protocol came down to him that is now called Psych-K. Uh, what we do with Psych-K is first we use muscle testing or applied kinesiology, which has
Hmm.
been around for what, 50 years, developed
At
by a
least, yeah.
chiropractor 50 years ago. Medical
Good heart.
science
Yeah.
says it's nonsense. Okay. It's a way to communicate with the body because your body has all the answers. You cannot keep any secrets from your body. It's all in there. So
Especially from your nervous system, right? Like that's the
exactly,
truth teller of
exactly.
the body.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we use muscle testing to find out the truth and then reverse it. And the way that we reverse that, we can literally reprogram the subconscious mind.
Mm,
And the beautiful thing about it is, like you were talking about earlier, you may have been traumatized as a child and you don't even remember.
right.
We don't need to know that. It's not going to take years of therapy. You don't have to go to a hypnotist to find out, if you had some sort of horrible trauma as a child. All we need to know is I don't have any self-esteem.
Hmm.
I feel unlovable. I have this chronic illness. I am always broke. Whatever the issue is, that's all we really need to know, and then we can work on it. And we do that by taking, how you are, reversing that. So I'm unlovable to I am worthy of unconditional love from myself and others. And then we do what's called a balance and that's an affirmation. Okay. So you can say that affirmation every day 100
Hmm.
times for a couple of years, or we can use Psych-K and instantly program it into the subconscious mind and for effective change. That's a broad overview of
Sure.
Psych-K. And I didn't just I was probably back to work. Like I said, I was actually in my healing practice. So when I went back to work, I went back to corporate as uh, I was a computer tech. I was a
Hmm.
geek. I spent the beginning of my career. I'm a geek turned healer, just so just so everybody knows.
That's quite the juxtaposition there.
It was.
Yeah.
And so I was probably in my healing practice, which I started in 2012 for 5 years before I discovered Psych-K.
Mm,
And so here was this power tool, and suddenly I had
hmm.
this power tool. So sometimes people come to me just for Psych-K. But out of all of the tools that I have, and I have a lot of tools, I would say Psych-K is probably my most powerful tool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the funny thing because so many people are searching for some kind of magic pill, or they come to our center and what's the IV that's going to transform everything and get me
Right.
better? And my
Right.
father, after all these years and other doctors that work there, and I've spoken to her, like it's usually the subtle ones that reprogram the patient itself and the information, the
The
bad
information.
information they're working on, right? The beliefs and the systems within them that keep them there that are the most profound. No IV
Yeah.
is going to do it, no nothing. And sometimes it seems simple, right? It seems that just saying something or holding an intention or anything like that, how is that therapy of, you could now put lasers in your veins and do all sorts of things. But those are the most profound, and those are the ones that people need to be able to embrace more.
Yeah.
I mean, have
Yeah,
you
and
have you seen?
I took a good look at your center, and I loved a lot of the therapies that you do there.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
You know,
Well, my
like
mother was a psychologist, right? And she worked with my father. My father was always someone that when he went to all these gurus and masters around the world, they always brought up the spiritual and psychological part as being more important than the
it
body.
is. It
And
is.
so he had to again reprogram his thought of only treat the body and the symptom to what is the underlying cause. And the underlying cause sometimes will never show up on a biochemical test because it isn't biochemistry. It's something much deeper and more profound for the human body. And that is the spiritual, the consciousness, the energy of it. And so once he started to figure that out, he's like, what am I doing with all this body stuff?
I
It's
love
it's
it.
nice and it's helpful, right? But if you
Yeah.
don't combine it with the other things, you're missing the
Yeah.
biggest portion of healing.
Yeah. Like I tell people, if I break my leg, take me to the nearest hospital,
Absolutely, right?
please.
Yeah, no, and that's why it's never to knock that system. I never wanted to. My father started there. He got his whole career starting in that system, and it's beautiful for what it is, for
Yeah.
emergency medicine,
Yeah.
acute things, right? But we have to acknowledge that it's not working so well for the chronic illness, for mental disorders and everything, the things that are more prevalent. As you say, it's 6 out of 10 now, right? Are dealing with at least one chronic illness. And
Right.
they're likely to never get better with the approach they're going at through conventional medicine and only slowly get worse.
Right. And the other thing that medical science, Western medicine does really well is diagnosing.
Yes.
So that's why when someone comes to me, I recommend that they go get some blood work,
Hmm.
to see what they're deficient in or to see what's going on. And then when we have that diagnosis, we can work with that. But yeah, one thing that stood out for me on your website was ozone.
Yeah.
Because ozone is very powerful. So again, it's not just the emotional work, it's a well-rounded approach that the body needs. And so when I got here to Mexico, ozone is readily available.
That's
And
the beauty about Mexico, right? It's
yeah,
much more open and not as attacked, let's say.
yeah. So I went right in, always wanted ozone. I always wanted to try ozone. And so I went right in for some ozone just as preventative.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
and
it's wonderful, right?
yeah, it's great. It's great. It kills
This natural
parasites.
compound that was so big in the 50s and 60s. I had Luciano Botto who's making a whole movie, a documentary about ozone and, the Lost Miracle O3, right? Of how it had such great results for any kind of infectious disease, boosting immune,
Yes,
and then of course pharma kind of got involved and shut it down in many ways and said we don't need that. It's not actual real medicine, and that's the story of so many things. And these are natural. Ozone's natural. It's what happens when lightning hits and that smell after a
right,
lightning storm, right? And so
right,
it's this amazing, element. Same with UV light in the right, in the right setting. UVBI, which is ultraviolet blood irradiation, like ozone, is this wonderful purifier, right? We know this when we're out in the sun. It's sort of a purifying effect as well in most cases. And so we've lost the art of understanding how it is nature is our greatest healer.